Good morning and welcome to Southeastern 16. I'm your host, Chris Lee, joined by Blake Lovell. Where's Max Barr? That's what you're asking. Max Barr is in transit somewhere. Arizona, is it, Blake?
Well, I can't get away his address, but he's heading somewhere.
he's going somewhere. That's not what I was asking. But anyway, just explain to the audience because, it seems unfathomable doing a basketball podcast without Max Barr, but we will be, at least for this morning. Anyway, welcome in to all of you in the chat. See Skylar here already. See Holly here. See Big Gator EJ. We are here to talk basketball, and do we have a specific agenda? No, we don't. We're here to just no. Why would we do that? We're here to just talk to you guys about whatever you'd like to talk about. We may run through the bracket. We had 2 NCAA tournament games played last night. Ole Miss now has an opponent, by the way. We will be recording the remainder of our game previews as soon as we're done with this. But yes, fun time of the year. My 11-year-old son was parked in front of the TV as soon as Alabama A&M and St. Francis tipped off last night. We saw the crazy ending to that one. Yeah. All right, I've talked a lot. Blake, your turn.
Let's get to the chat. Shout out to Holly here. What a compliment. Watch some other channels here and there. This week, throughout the season, nothing compares to Southeastern 16. Just Blake and Max are just better than the rest. Oh, that Chris is in there too. We got Chris's name's in there too.
Well, yeah.
Shane thinks it's a balance of the comic relief, which I assume has to do with our picks. Like our picks are always comic relief.
Right.
Honest opinion. And the depth of research they give on each team. So we appreciate that, you guys. Nice words from you. Yes, we did finally make it to 25,000 subscribers. We appreciate you guys for that, all 25,000 of you. Whether you subscribed because you like us or subscribed because you hate us, you're subscribed, and we appreciate the 25,000. Yeah, what a road to get here. Several NCAA tournaments ago, we were looking up, and we had 400 subscribers. 398 of them were Arkansas fans. And what do you know? Now we've hit a pretty big number here. And so we appreciate you guys for that. It is, as Elliot says, it's the eve of the big dance, the calm before the storm. We're here. Although technically, the SEC, it starts today because Texas,
yes,
in action tonight against Xavier. That's kind of where we're at on this. So here's what we're going to do today, guys. We're going to turn it over to you. Now, we're going to talk about a couple different things when it comes to the tournament, but any questions, any comments, bracket thoughts you guys have, we're going to kind of let it ride with you guys today and see what you want to talk about, because we will let you know we will be doing our official bracket picks tomorrow morning, live, 9 a.m. Central Time on Southeastern 16. All of us, me, Chris, and Max, will be making our official tournament picks. So you remember the gut bracket we did when the bracket came out? Throw it out the window. Our official picks, we put the research in this week, which means I guarantee you the gut bracket's going to do way better than our official picks will do when we get to this. So, but yes, that's kind of our plan for today, and shout out to Unbiased Brim. Was here from the start, from day one. The Hogs were on the scene, to say the least. So, they should probably be back when it comes to this. But also shout out to Sam, saying, when is Blake going to get over his Yale bias? My Yale bias. By the way, I wasn't even on the prediction video for Texas A&M and Yale. I haven't even made an official pick for that game yet. Although I think your pick, or my pick, may surprise some people. But I'll do that tomorrow, and I'll tell you how much my Yale bias goes into play there. So,
how many times have you changed your bracket this week?
Chris, let me be honest with you. I have not even started filling out my bracket yet. I've not even begun to fill out my bracket. What I do is I go through the matchups, but I don't yet fill out the bracket. I've been going through every matchup, game by game, using the great, tremendous VSiN guide, using our friend Bart Torvik, Mr. Palm, Mr. Ken Pomeroy, and a lot of other the computers which means that I'm getting more and more confused because I'm just using all this data. But I've got my thoughts on each matchup, but I've not even begun to fill out a bracket yet. That'll be by tomorrow morning. So,
well, let me ask it differently. You haven't put anything on paper or haven't clicked a button but like, how many times have you been like, okay, if I had to pick a bracket right now, say Monday morning it would have been this, and then Tuesday morning you're like, if I had to fill one out now, I'd change this game and that game and that game. I mean, surely that's happened, right?
Yes. So Daniel is a great point here. Daniel, I think Ole Miss should be on upset alert now. Yeah, after you see another team in the first 4 game do what North Carolina did last night, I will say there's some thoughts on the Ole Miss game I have now that probably are a little bit different than they would have been on Monday. I don't think we just can completely ignore what North Carolina did. Whether we thought they should be in the field or not, which they shouldn't have been, doesn't matter now. All that matters is you win games, and they looked pretty good last night. I don't think we can ignore that. So that's one that I will say I've changed my opinion on. Hold on, let me get the trusty print bracket out here. I'm tired of looking at the computer right now. Come on, screen time. Let's look at the good stuff here on paper. I will say there's another one. Yeah, there are a couple. I'm going to go region by region. How about that? I'll give you a couple that I've changed my opinion on. So if we do start in the South, again, Ole Miss, North Carolina is more interesting now based on how they played. I've changed my opinion on Texas A&M Yale, but I'm not going to give you which way that is. If we go down to the West, there's really not any others in that part of the bracket that I would say I've changed my opinion on. I've changed my opinion on UConn, Oklahoma. Not going to give you exactly which direction that is, but I've sold myself on one of these picks with UConn, Oklahoma. I mean, based on our prediction video we did yesterday, I've changed my thoughts on Missouri Drake, and that's probably it in the West. I would say in the East, I've changed my opinion on Oregon Liberty a lot, and now I have a stone cold lead pipe lock of the day. Which as of right now, it's Liberty over Oregon. Everything points in the direction of an upset there for my former Final Four pick, Oregon. Vanderbilt St. Mary's is one I've changed my opinion on. Mm-hmm. And I'll wait. We're going to record that prediction video right after this one. I'll give you my thoughts there on that one. And then if we go down to the Midwest, oh boy, Kentucky fans, hold your ears. I've changed my opinion on that part of the bracket. Not necessarily Kentucky-Troy, but that part of the bracket I've changed my opinion on a little bit. So
I have changed so many games. I don't even have a count. Like, I'm having so much trouble with the bottom half of the South bracket. I think I've changed literally almost every first-round pick at least once. Mm. And I've got Ole Miss going through. I'm just kidding. My bracket I've had all week has got Ole Miss going in through the 8. Now I'm like, I'm not sure they can get by North Carolina. I've got to put some thought into that.
It's tough.
I go to the East. I've changed the bottom half of the bracket. I think I've changed my picks now on Missouri and Arkansas at least once. Top half, I've still got Florida coming out, and that's not going to change. But I think that you got some tricky teams there. If you go to the East, I've changed on Oregon Liberty. I've waffled many times on Akron, Arizona. Still don't know what I would do with that one. I mean, I've changed opinions on Kentucky, Tennessee as I look at it more. Like, I think the big takeaway I have is I just like this bracket. I think the matchups are fun. I think I see a lot of games that could go either way. And I used to pick a tournament bracket. I was being super competitive. Like, as your team started losing, like, crud, my bracket's no good now. Now I'm a little less interested. So, like, one year I, didn't pick one at all. Like, maybe it's more fun this way if I don't have picks. And then I missed doing a bracket. So the way I do it now is I like to pick it. I don't take it too seriously. If it does well, then great. If not, well, I've had fun watching the tournament. And I think that's where we are. I have no confidence in what I've picked on a lot of these, but I'm just going to enjoy watching how it plays out.
No, I agree. I say it all the time. I don't care about my bracket. By the way, speaking of that, we got to get a bracket challenge going for you guys. Of course, you should be checking out BracketBids. I mean, that's your number one priority. We'll talk about them in a few minutes. But if you do want to join one of these, ESPN, CBS bracket challenges or whatever, we'll get that set up for you if you want to hop in and join us on that. Actually, I will maybe try to get that done while we're doing this right now. But yeah, we'll get something going for you guys. If you want to do just a generic, I guess, contest, we can. But again, BracketBids is where we want you to be, because we'll be there as well, jumping into all the fun stuff going on over there. So yeah, no, I mean, I just don't put a lot into I just like looking at the matchup type stuff, and I think that's where someone asked. Let me find it here. Let's see, Tom. I'm going to start your comment. You're asking about Missouri, by the way. So, what happened to my Oregon love? You may ask. So, I was big on Oregon in the gut bracket and all this other stuff. Had them beating Duke and everything. I'll tell you what happened. I'm going to refer to the VEASAN guide. Max and I, it's like our new, I don't know what you would call it, but. Chris, of the potential upset victim qualifiers, there is only one team in this NCAA tournament that meets all the criteria for being an upset victim. All 17 data points checked off. Check, check, check. It's the Oregon Ducks. So they are the most likely upset victim. And then when I take that and then I go a little bit further and see that Mr. Torvik himself, if you look at the similar profiles for Liberty, guess who their similar profile is of a team that made a Cinderella run over the past, past 10 years, I guess. Any guesses?
No, I'm going blank.
Their best comp is a Final Four run from one Loyola Chicago.
Oh,
so, wow. Now the difference is they're no Sister Jean, but still, I think I'm a little bit more in on Liberty than I was a while back. So therefore, I may change my pick a little bit on that one. So that's why I've changed my Oregon thoughts. So
well, and Liberty, Richie McKay is a really good coach. They play that matchup zone that you just don't see. They could just get you out of your comfort zone very quickly.
You know what I'm going to say, Chris, when it comes to that pick? Give me Liberty or give me, Oregon. I mean, I got to pick one of the two. Give me Liberty or give me Oregon. That's the new phrase for that one. But let's talk about some SEC stuff, though. And again, I'll get that bracket challenge to you guys if you want to do just we've done this every year. So I'll get it set up for us to do it. By the way, I'm just gonna do like this. We could have some fun with this. I'm gonna do this is tremendous. Okay, I didn't realize the ESPN gave us the option. Yeah, Oregon sitting Ducks, quack quack.
Sitting Ducks.
How about this? Have you seen the option where when you go to ESPN to fill out your bracket, it gives you the option to do a random bracket?
Yep.
Completely randomized. I just hit that button because I wanted to see what happened. We've got to go through this before the end of this show. This is one of the greatest things I've ever seen. I did not know you could do it this way, but apparently you can. So we're gonna use this on the show because this is absolutely fantastic. All right, let's get to some SEC stuff though. So let's look here. All right, Brian, who's the first SEC team to lose and why? Well, let's look at the schedule. Because
could be Texas tonight.
Yeah, it could be. It could be Texas. We all picked Xavier, and I mean, just to quickly give you any additional thoughts on that matchup, Xavier's playing really, really well. Not to say Texas didn't find a little bit of a, extra gear in the SEC tournament, but I don't know. Xavier to me feels like one of those teams that fits a lot of the things you need to make a run here. They'd won 7 in a row before that Big East tournament, lost by 2 points to Marquette. They're playing great, and, say what you want about Sean Miller. He's also someone that's had some success before in this kind of setting, so I just think it's a tough matchup. So,
yeah, Zach Fremantle's a problem.
A little tough. So, yeah, a little difficult. We'll see, though, how it plays out. All right, so if it's not, I mean, Georgia Gonzaga is one of the opening ones for the SEC tomorrow. We all picked the Zags on that one too, but if you want to zig while everybody else is zagging, pun intended, picking Georgia is not a bad idea in your bracket because I'm telling you, I think 90% of the people or more are going to pick Gonzaga there. So, yeah, I think that's it. So here's a good question. I don't, Willie, I know he's asking Chris, but I don't think Richie McKay gets hired at Virginia. It's an interesting thought since he was with Tony Bennett, but
Ryan Odom has been the
yeah, I think
consensus
Ryan Odom.
favorite for the people that I talk to that are a little connected in those worlds.
I'd be surprised if it's not Ryan Odom.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
With Mark Byington being a guy whose name has been thrown out for a while too, but again, I don't think that's probably happening.
We'll see. Tom, great point here. Only halfway through the preview video, but curious on the thoughts on Missouri getting to play in Wichita. Yeah, it's a nice spot for Missouri. I think getting that setup right. So they will be well represented, as we know.
Drake might be too, though.
What's that?
I mean, that's not too far from Drake, is it?
Well, yes, but I think still.
Yeah, but Missouri's got a lot more fans.
Yeah. I think Missouri's going to have more fans. And then, I mean, again, a Texas Tech, Wilmington second round. That's one I haven't really looked at. Like if we're trying to, I just don't really see it with Wilmington against Texas Tech, but I still have to study that one a little more.
I haven't even looked at that one. I just wrote Texas Tech in.
Yeah, I know. I try to do just even 5 minutes just to make sure I'm not missing anything on some of these. Because, I mean, look, and Kentucky fans don't want to hear this, but that's what we did last year, right, with Oakland. I mean, it's why I kept saying, hey, we got to calm down here. Like, we can't just overlook this because I think it is one that, there are some of those signs. And I think I like to do that with the 3-14s especially because we've seen it happen before. So I'll look at it and see. I like to see Big Baller Brett already all in on my methodology here. He's got Bob Morris advancing to the second round over his Crimson Tide. That's how you got to do it. That's how you got to do it, Chris. That's the way it works. You gotta lean in on the.
I think Brett has had his heart broken over the weekend. Maybe.
I think he's doing a good job picking Bob Morris. Okay. I think he should.
Oh, that's what's going on. Got you. Okay.
I think he should stay on Bob Morris. So, I think it's a good call for Big Baller Brett. So, hey, Carter's going to be there tomorrow. Missouri Drake.
Hey.
That's why I'm confident about Missouri's chances, knowing that Carter's going to be there. So, Joshua, here we go. First super chat of the NCAA tournament, technically. $20 super chat. Time to get hog wild in Providence. Oh, boy. Look out, Providence citizens. It's going to be hog wild up there. Getting on a flight right now, ready to shock the world, especially the Big Blue Nation. Oh, boy. Got the Woo Pig Hogs by 90 over Kansas. So I'm going to take Kansas in the plus 90 there. But that's just my thoughts. So, all right. Let's see what else we got here. How about this? Blueberry J getting an oil change on the work truck. So getting to catch the live stream. Usually watched after they posted. Good job. Getting the oil change is important.
Yes. Unless
you're me and realize that yours was overdue about 6 months ago, but it was basketball season and you just completely forgot until 2 weeks ago. It's funny how that works. But
yeah.
All right, Brian. How many SEC teams make it to the Sweet 16? Are you still set on that 6 number, Chris, or would we change to?
Let's see. 1.
You don't have to reveal who, but just what's the number you have?
Yeah. We're at 5. Let's see. 1, 2, 3. No, I'm at 6. Sorry. I was looking at the wrong 8.
Yeah, I think 6 is a good number. Again, I haven't filled out my bracket, but we've called, we've called it out on some of the other gut brackets in terms of the different scenarios where we could see it getting to 6. I do feel like more than that is it's a lot based on the matchups in the bracket, but I think if you get 6, you've got to. I think if you're SEC, you feel pretty good about 6, just because I do think, and this is the bigger discussion, okay? Because I've been asked this, of course, doing all the radio podcast stuff this week. I get asked the same question a lot. It's like, what would be considered a disappointment? Is it disappointing if the SEC doesn't win the national championship? Is it disappointing if the SEC doesn't get 2 Final Four teams? Like where do you draw the line with a disappointing versus acceptable? Because we know what the national narrative's going to be. Like, okay, the SEC has to win it all or it's a disappointment. The SEC has to get 2 of the Final Four, it's a disappointment. And anytime the SEC fails, we know, the national is going to have a chance to jump on and say, all right, overrated, all this other stuff, should have never had 14 teams in. Well, that's not exactly how it works because, that's just not how it works. You pick a tournament based on the strongest teams to that point, but in a tournament setting, why do we love the NCAA tournaments? Because, well, it's March Madness, and upsets happen and all this other stuff. But I mean, look, you got to at least get a team in the Final Four. Maybe you got to get 2. Is it disappointing if the SEC doesn't win a national championship this year in a year where you have the number 1 overall seed, another 1 seed that most people are picking over the number 1 overall seed, 2 seeds that are, good enough to win the whole thing? I mean, yeah, it's probably a little disappointing, but I don't know. I don't like to jump into those conversations because my thoughts on this, Chris. I know we play for championships, and I get it.
Yeah.
But to me, I still think what you do over a 35-game period tells me a lot more about the overall quality than just the tournament. But again, we're all playing those 35 games to get to the spot, so I'm not going to sit there and say it doesn't matter. But, yeah.
Well, I mean, okay, let me give you a scenario. Like, what happens if the SEC gets 8 or 9 teams in the Sweet 16 and then 1 team in the Final Four and no team in the national title game? Is that a disappointment? I mean, because that would be historic in its own way, would it not?
Like outside
of Sweet 16?
Outside of us, yes, it would. Everybody would say it's disappointing, but
yeah,
I don't. Yeah, so
I mean, and here's the thing too. You've got a lot of teams. The SEC has so many teams. Like, I don't know if it's a good. Like, if Kentucky and Tennessee meet in the 16, that guarantees the SEC team a team in the Elite 8. It also guarantees the elimination of another team. You've got so many teams in the bracket, it creates some weird stuff like that. Like Alabama and Vandy could play in the second round.
Florida, Oklahoma, Alabama, Vandy. Like,
right.
So you could immediately get several teams knocked out just based on the fact that everybody has to be they have to be put in the bracket with each other because there's just not a lot of spots because you have that many teams. So, yeah, I think that's it.
What if the SEC got a national champion, but like 3 teams in the Sweet 16?
Then I still think I think that's fine.
See, to me, I think that would be a little disappointing.
Well, I would agree with that. I just still think, again, because we're playing for the national championship, I think that it still erases that stat that everybody's going to be, well, the SEC hasn't won the national championship since this, right? Yeah. So I think that's it to me. But it would be, I mean, if you only got 3, because that in that scenario, that means that if you only get 3, then Auburn, Florida, Alabama, Tennessee, one of those teams is out. Yep. Kentucky's out maybe in that scenario.
Everybody else would be out.
Yep. Yeah, so I mean, it's like you got a lot of teams losing early as higher seeds, so that wouldn't be good. But, if one of those teams went on to win the whole thing, then it's acceptable. But I don't know. So
what if every team won its first round game? Then you'd have 14 of the final 32 from the SEC. Not going to happen, but just going to throw that out there.
The good news in that is that not all of them can lose their second game because you would have, 2 second-round matchups between SEC teams. So somebody's got to advance. But, yeah, we'll see. All right. Mother Carol asked, are we going to be at any locations? Listen, Mother Carol, there have been some years where I've considered it. This year I said absolutely not because there are 14 teams in the NCAA tournament. And I'm like, how do we possibly – there's no way we could cover it all by actually being at one of these locations. So it's not possible. So, yeah, tough. People are calling Skylar during the live broadcast here, which is a no-no.
Skylar, you'd think people would know.
It's a no-no. You don't call people. We're currently engaged in the Southeastern 16 live stream. So,
all right, Go ahead. Well, I've got an
No, go
important
ahead.
one after that. Well,
Okay.
no, get to our audience first.
Our guards aren't peas. Back. More likely, an SEC 1 doesn't make the Sweet 16 or an SEC 8-9 makes the Sweet 16.
Ooh.
All right, so
Wow.
more likely a 1 doesn't make it or more likely that an 8-9 makes it.
Well, we've only got 2 1s. Our 8-9s are Georgia and
Oklahoma, Mississippi State.
Okay.
Wow.
Ooh.
Wow. It's a great question. I'm not going to lie to you. Not going to like the answer, but
Yeah.
I think it may be more likely that that a 1 doesn't make the Sweet 16.
Here's the issue. You got some weird stuff in the 8-9 games, the likes of which I have never seen. First of all, you've got Auburn potentially playing Louisville in Lexington, which this just in, not that far from Louisville.
Mm-hmm.
In the East bracket, you've got Florida playing potentially a UConn team that's runner-up. And I know UConn has not played well, but, man, I spent probably 30, 45 minutes yesterday looking at that roster and all the stuff those guys have done and all the guys that are NBA players, were first-team All-American, something. Like, if UConn gets it together, I mean, they were number 6 preseason in AP? Not the craziest thing we've ever seen. And then you've got in the Midwest, you got Gonzaga, an 8 seed that's top 10 in a lot of the computers. And again, same thing with UConn. You run through that roster, they got 8 or 9 really talented players who've done a lot of stuff before. When teams reset, it's a new season. Forget about what happened. You see a team every now and then that flips the script. Oh, no, by the way, the other 8-9 game, Mississippi State team that's dangerous when it's on, and a Baylor team with the coach and Scott Drews won a ton of postseason games and was also preseason top 10 some places. That's the dynamic, I think, that maybe is not getting talked about enough. Is as much as we love the 1 seeds, there's some weird stuff on the 8-9 lines that we rarely see in any tournament, and it's the case in every region, Blake.
Yeah, that's why I'm just kind of like, I don't know. It is, again, we said it in the preview, like Gonzaga just does not have the profile of an 8 seed at all. Many people thought Louisville was underseeded. You mentioned the stuff with UConn. Like, again, I think even in the right scenario, like Oklahoma's kind of a dangerous team. We've seen the highs of them. We've seen, the inconsistencies too. And we talked about it. If Georgia gets a matchup with Houston, I mean, Georgia, that's the kind of style they would rather have than probably, any of the other 1 seeds if they had to pick. I know they beat Florida, but still, I think Florida's still 10-plus points better than Georgia on a neutral court.
There's also
I don't know.
interconference familiarity.
Yeah. So it's kind of one of those things where, I feel like it is kind of one where you could play around with different ideas with these 8-9 seeds, but I don't know. So we'll see. All right, a couple more questions here. We'll keep running through these. Having fun with you guys here. Again, anything you want to get to, leave your super chats. Anything else, we're just kind of having fun with the bracket today. Tomorrow we'll make our official picks. Max will be back on, and we'll make our official picks. Right after this, Chris and I are going to record several more prediction videos. We may not get to all of them today, so you may see, if you're a Florida fan, Florida Norfolk State. I think you all know who we're going to pick in that game, but that may come out tomorrow morning. But we'll again get as many as we can up today, and the rest will come out tomorrow morning. So just as an FYI on that. Of course, we've already got a lot of videos up, so go check those out for previews on everything. And so Tyler, we're going to get to it. Don't worry. The random bracket is still loaded. It's ready to go. We're going to get to it at the end of the show. So this random bracket it's remarkable. That's all I can say. But all right, let's get to this here. Brian wants to know, can or will Arkansas make it past the round of 32. Well, I think we brought it up in the Arkansas-Kansas preview. I'm going to go back to my friends at VEASAN. And the Cinderella qualifiers, 17 criteria points needed to match a Cinderella candidate, which means someone seated under, I think it's like 6 seed or lower. Arkansas checks all 17 boxes. Every single thing tells us that Arkansas is a Cinderella team. Well, guess what? So does Kansas. Kansas checks off every single box. You want to know the other 3 teams besides those 2? The Zags, Connecticut, and UCLA are the teams that check all the boxes in Cinderella qualifiers of 6 seeds or lower. So keep that in mind, which is why I think the winner of Kansas-Arkansas can beat St. John's. That's not going to be a popular thought here because I know some people have told us we've been underselling St. John's. I don't think that's really true, but I'm just saying, it's the NCAA tournament. I know it's Ricky P over there, but Kansas and Arkansas were 2 very, very highly praised, talented teams to start the season. It didn't go their way during the regular season, but if they find their way, like let's say North Carolina did last night or some of these other teams that are starting to figure it out, don't look past the idea that one of them, I think, could beat St. John's in the second round.
Blake, I'm looking at the preseason AP poll. Kansas, and again, this is a criteria that experts have used for a long time to identify teams that had disappointing seasons or whatever, or maybe teams that had good seasons, and if their AP ranking preseason matches up with where they are, you feel good about it. Kansas, the preseason number 1, 7 seed. Alabama, preseason number 2, 2 seed. UConn, preseason number 3, 8 seed. I'm not going to read all these, but I'll just go down. Gonzaga, preseason number 6, 8 seed. Baylor, preseason number 8, 9 seed. Creighton, preseason number 15, 9 seed. Arkansas, preseason number 15, 10 seed. Oh, by the way, North Carolina, preseason number 9, play-in game. Dayton. Indiana, preseason 17, didn't make it. Texas, preseason 19, Dayton. Yeah, that's about it. I guess the teams that didn't make it from the preseason AP top 25 were Indiana at 17, Rutgers at 25, and Cincinnati at 20.
Yeah, that's interesting. That is interesting. I think Ty brings up a good point here, too, and this is why we talk about these teams in that range, 6, 7, 8, 9, even 10. Like, again, UCLA and Illinois are also 2 teams that I think that, like I mentioned, UCLA checks all the boxes for the VEASAN guide. Illinois, you talked about them. When they were playing well, look out. That's why I think that Kentucky part of the bracket is a little more interesting than maybe I gave it credit for, because I do think if you're Kentucky, you're talking potential matchups against, if you beat Troy, potential matchups against Illinois, who at their height has looked like a 2 seed this year. They've looked tremendous. Xavier, who, again, I think is playing about as well as anybody right now. When you look at all the Torvik metrics, anything in terms of momentum, stuff like that, they're playing really well. And look, I know Texas, I get it. Kentucky lost that game. They know who wasn't playing. Multiple guys weren't playing in that game against Texas. But still, with Trey Johnson, right? It's a familiar opponent. You never know. So, yeah, I don't, like we said, I think that's going to be the case for anybody because, like we mentioned here, even UCLA for Tennessee, right? Tennessee, second round matchup against UCLA, maybe a little bit interesting. So, I don't know. It's the tournament, right? And we could do this for everybody, really, because the thing is, like the way it used to be, there were certain things, Chris, that were just completely off limits when it came to like picking your bracket. You're like, come on, you can't pick this, you can't pick that. But when we saw 2 16 seeds win in the past however long, it's like everything is in play when it comes to this tournament because we've seen it now happen before. And so I think that's where you just cannot feel 100% confident about anything. And it's just, yeah, and that's what like these 8-9s we talked about a minute ago, right? Think about the 8-9s, and you ran off all the resume points. But we're talking UConn, Gonzaga, Baylor. The SEC teams that got stuck in the 8-9 games are playing UConn, Gonzaga, and Baylor. Like, national championship teams or national championship
Preseason
game.
top 10 AP
like,
teams, all of them.
Unreal. Like, that's your 8-9 games for the SEC team. So it's almost like if they all lose, we shouldn't be that surprised just because, again, look at the level of the opponent. And, I mean, yeah, like it's just, so I don't know. This thing could go anyway. You guys know I try to be the ultimate pessimist when it comes to the NCAA tournament because I've seen this happen before, and I don't want the SEC to disappoint this year. But, man, the matchups are not easy, and that's why you're talking about the field to 68, the teams that deserve to be there, and it's not going to be easy for these teams to make a run.
Well, Blake, you brought up Illinois a minute ago, and another thing I did yesterday in my prep just to say, let me see if there's something I'm missing here. Illinois' got 2 potential NBA first-rounders, and I'm probably going to botch the name. Is it Yakachunas? Yakachonis. Say it again.
You say it again. I'd prefer to hear you say that again.
Say it like you're clearing your throat. Anyway,
Wow.
No. All kidding aside, he and Will Riley, I think, is the other one. Of course, they're also both freshmen. So, you got you got Liam McNeely at UConn, who didn't have a super efficient year, but he's first-round guard. I mean, and Trey Johnson. I mean, my goodness, we've kind of. I'm not saying we've written off Texas, but we've said all throughout the year we wouldn't be shocked if like Texas made it an Elite Eight run, and I still wouldn't be.
Well, I don't know what's going to happen. By the way, if you want to give you the VEASAN guide again, I can't stress this enough. This thing is tremendous. Like, if you have nothing to do today and you want to just, sit here and just research this entire thing, which, again, will get you so backwards in your picks. Like, you'll be so confused by the end of it. But I love it. This guide is it's unbelievable with all the little nuggets of information in here. 143 pages, by the way. Now, most of them are just like team capsules and all that stuff. But there are only 2 teams that check all 17 boxes for the criteria needed to win the national championship. Do you know who those 2 teams are, Chris?
Duke and either Houston or Florida.
Auburn checks all 17 boxes. Florida checks all 17 boxes. Duke checks 16 of the 17, and then you got a little bit of a gap. Houston, 13. Tennessee, 11. You want to know who's number 6, Chris? Take a wild guess.
Kansas.
Gonzaga.
Oh, okay.
The Zags are number 6 in this list. So, yeah. So that's notable there.
So wait, what was Duke missing? It must have been some experience criteria.
Let's see. Duke was missing the schedule strength, top 46. So
okay.
Like the schedule strength is top 46 is the cutoff for that. Theirs was not. So
what was Houston missing?
Boy, Houston's missing. Let's see, top 55 in offensive points per game.
Oh, really?
Momentum rating, top 6, and offensive field goal percentage. There's a couple other things like that. Assist to turnover ratio being in the top 37. So they're missing quite a few of those. Again, these are cutoff numbers based on data and doing all that stuff. But yeah, it's interesting though. It's interesting, I think, to look at. So. And the thing is, I have all these old VEASAN guides. I've been buying this thing for years, so I'd like to go back and see which ones they nailed and which ones were off. So, yeah. But
all right, dude, we're here for our listeners. Give me we're just talking through little things that have popped up as we're studying the bracket. Give me some other stuff that popped up that you're like, oh, didn't think about that, didn't know that might be helpful to our audience as they fill out a bracket.
Well, I'll tell you, I didn't know this right here either.
You're going to hate me because I keep making you talk, and I know that's what you
hold on.
need.
I didn't know this because Carrie's going to bring up here. Can't believe Max and Blake picked Kansas over Arkansas. Whoa, 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 whoa. Not so fast, my friend. Don't put that on me. I picked Arkansas to beat Kansas. It was Chris and Max who picked the Jayhawks in that one. But listen, flip a coin when it comes to these 2 teams. Are you kidding me? I don't have a great feel on this game, but don't put that Kansas pick on me though. I'm gonna pick the Hogs. I've seen this before in the NCAA tournament. I've seen the Hogs do their thing in March. Come on. We've seen this all the time. I've seen them. But we'll see. All right. So the things that I've changed my opinion on again, Chris, is that the thought here? So
Well, just something that you noted of interest as you did your research that might be helpful to somebody out there listening as they fill out a bracket.
Well, before I give you my answer, let's note here. Shane says, with 16 seeds winning recently, Kentucky getting bounced in round one, I'm questioning everything in the tournament. So there's our confidence starting point. Yeah. Anna says, never once has filled out a bracket and thought, yeah, I'm confident in this one. We've all been the same on that too. So if there's one thing, I think that, again, I'm not like a Oreos. He's trying to tell you something. He's trying to tell you something. I will say that when in doubt, here's my advice. And again, I'm not like a 5-time bracket champion or anything. But my advice is like, when in doubt, advance the higher seed. Because I just, and I know it's a bracket, but like, again, Max brought up the stat, and I'm going to try to find it on his Twitter here. I will find it to bring it up because I think it's very important for the conversation. And by the way, this stat is everywhere. We got Big Cat on Pardon My Take talking about Max's stat that he put out there on this and everything. Max is worldwide. The mustache and everything is gone. It's gone platinum at this point. But here's the stat that Max put out. Okay, only 4 teams since 2000 have entered the NCAA tournament at plus 35 or better on KenPom. Okay. 2021 Gonzaga finished as the runner-up. 2019 Virginia won the national championship. 2015 Kentucky got the Final Four, which we know how good that team was. 2001 Duke won the national championship. Now, if you want to take that into this year, right? Look at where all the number 1 seeds currently sit in KenPom, Chris. Do you have that number in front of you?
I don't, but I know those 4 teams were unusually well. I'll pull it up. Let's say Duke is. Go ahead. Well, I'll save your voice. Duke is plus 38.3. Florida's plus 36.2. Houston plus 35.4. Auburn plus 35.2. And by the way, that's not, when you say top 35, that's not top 35 ranking in KenPom. That's the number next to the rating. That's your difference between, in other words, what this is saying is Duke over 100 possessions against, like, I think it's an average team, is 38 points better, which is a staggering number.
But the bigger point is that all 4 of these teams are just like only 4 teams before, the last 25 years have entered at plus 35 or better. All number 1 seeds this year are plus 35 or better. Every single one of them. Like, so that's why I keep saying, if there's anything I've learned, don't get cute with the 1 seeds, because they all have the profile to go out and win this thing, and they all have the profile to win the national championship, get to the Final Four, blaze through everybody else. But again, we bring up the tricky things with the 8-9, so you kind of got to pick your spots, and so, yeah, that's, I don't know. So they all have the profile to win this thing, but
okay, I'm going backwards and looking at KenPom final ratings. Last year, UConn was plus 36.4, a full 5 points per 100 ahead of Houston. 2023, UConn also number 1. That team not nearly as dominant, plus 29.9. The year before, Kansas was your national champion, also number 3 in KenPom, plus 28.5. So again, all 4 of those teams significantly better than the Kansas team that won it in 2022, according to KenPom. Okay, Baylor, number 2 in KenPom, won it in 2021. So there's a pattern here. 2019, Virginia, number 1 in KenPom, also your national champion. 18, Villanova, number 1 in KenPom, also your national champion. Carolina 3 and 17, also your national champion. Villanova, number 1 in 16, also national champion. I mean, I'm sure I could go back and back and back. The last team that was totally off the radar was Connecticut, which was 15 in Ken Palm, with an efficiency margin of plus 22.1 in 2014. That was your outlier. But for the last decade, pick a top 5 Ken Palm team to win your natty, if not top 3.
Yep. I'm with you. I think, again, when in doubt, advance the top seeds, because otherwise your bracket starts to get very you start to get teams where like, uh-oh, how did I get this team to this spot? Because now I don't know what to do with them. Then you got to start backtracking. So these top seeds are going to be tough to beat, but these 8-9 games are fascinating, as we've noted many times. So, all right. By the way, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to drop a link in the chat. It's here. The bracket challenge, Southeastern 16. Now look, you got to do something for me. You got to put your name in there that you actually are using on YouTube, okay? So make sure you either put your bracket name or whatever you want to do. Your name needs to be there so we know who you are, so we can identify when you win the championship. So we need you to make sure that when you fill out your bracket, make sure your name is listed as what your actual chat name is, so we know who you are. In case someone wins, and maybe we can find a way to give out a prize or something like that. So yeah, there's your bracket challenge. Be sure to sign up for it. We'll share the link tomorrow too when we're filling out our brackets, but I went ahead and put that up there for us. Okay. Who wants to get to, hold on, let me get a couple other chats and then we'll get to maybe the random bracket. I got to ask a question before the random bracket. $2 super chat from Our Guards Aren't Peas. No SEC teams made the NIT. Yeah, pretty disappointing, I thought. It's a shame. Real shame. No NIT teams. So is the SEC overrated?
Actually, 2 made it. They just chose not to participate.
Yeah, well, listen, you got to compete, but I completely understand why they didn't want to play in the NIT. Yeah, we did see, by the way, I was asking Brian, but how about the whole West Virginia suing the NCAA over the snub? They're going to sue Indiana over taking their coach, too. They got a lot of things upset, maybe, in West Virginia right now, but not too happy about that. Will says, which day will have more upsets, Thursday or Friday? I feel like it's always Thursday, isn't it? Thursday's always the day, I think, that has the most upsets. I don't know. But
let me look at that. Okay, games we flagged as potential upsets, and I'm not going to do like 8-9s and stuff. But I don't know. Looking at this now, it feels like more of those are Friday games.
I don't have a confident answer either way. So there's going to be.
We talking seeding upsets or point spread upsets?
I don't know. That's just anything upset related.
Yeah, Friday looks like the day for me. That's where you got Liberty down there. You've got Akron, Arizona. You got Colorado State, Memphis, whether you consider that an upset. Lipscomb, Iowa State. Thursday there's some, but just not as many. I mean, McNeese Clemson would be a lot of 12-5 picks. I'm not sure I see that one. High Point Purdue is tomorrow. So it's not overwhelming, but I think maybe more on Friday.
All right, it's time. But before I get to the random ESPN bracket, I'm going to give you guys a chance. I can randomize it one more time, or do you want me to stick with the initial bracket? Weigh in. I can hit the randomizer one more time if you want a completely new bracket, or you don't know what it says, but you get the option. This is like, what's the game? Like,
what's behind door number 1?
Basically, do you want the initial one, or do you want something different? Because I'm telling you right now, if you want the initial bracket,
I think you sold the initial so well that's what I was thinking, and the chat is backing me up. We could do both.
It's very interesting because it does fit a lot of the things that we just have talked about, and somehow ESPN knew. So it sounds like deal or no deal. That's it. Tyler says. Yeah. All right, so we're gonna go with this. Before we do, let me tell you about BracketBids real quick, because this is the other bracket contest you guys are going to be in on this week. The free pick'em contest. It's open. Get in there. Check it out. The Auction Draft League, remember, you can use that promo code SE16 for 40% off if you want to set up a league right now. Do an Auction Draft League. It's a lot of fun. You all start with the same bidding dollars. You got to secure those teams. As Ryan told us on the selection show, which ones are going to make their move all the way to however far they get. That's what you're looking for. You get the multiple scoring models to pick from. You can track it. They got live in-game scoring, all that kind of stuff. So, again, promo code SE16 for 40% off. You want to sign up for your league there. Download the app today, BracketBids, or visit them at bracketbids.com. All right. Here we go. It's time. I wish I could do this by region, but I don't think I can. However, it's time for the randomized bracket from ESPN. One of you SEC teams, you better cover your eyes right now. You're not going to like what you see right at the beginning. Here we go, Chris. Are you ready?
You must be speaking of Auburn. We're about to find out.
Oh, Auburn. Out of there in round 1 in the South. So let's get started here. Alabama State advances over.
Screen.
What's that?
It's still not up on my screen. It's my connection. Of course.
Okay, I was about to say. Everyone else can see it. All right. So, Alabama State has decided to make a run here. A very deep run in the NCAA tournament. Auburn, the number 1 overall seed, ousted in game number 1 per the ESPN randomizer. Yale making a Sweet 16 run shouldn't surprise anybody. Alabama State, Yale in the South here. I'm going to go region by region. I know you can see what's going on the right side there, but we're going to stick with this. North Carolina and Alabama State in the Elite Eight. We've got all double-digit seeds per the randomizer here. SEC teams really struggling. Not a single SEC team advancing in the South bracket. Man. If we go over to this part of the bracket, which is the East, Duke also ousted in round 1, so don't feel bad, Auburn. Meanwhile, remember that conversation. When I did the randomizer, Chris, I did this while we were talking about Oregon. The Ducks said, quack, quack. And they decided to advance all the way to the Final Four. So Alabama State, Oregon, both in the Final Four so far. If you're a fan of, any SEC team really. Has a single SEC team advanced so far? They've not. They've all been beaten.
This isn't random.
Maybe this is trying to tell us something. Every SEC team has lost in the South and East region. So, not off to a good start. Let's go check out the bottom. You can see the champion. Look at the champion. The Zags. Now, that may not be so random. I said the Zags have national championship qualities. Can they beat Alabama State, though? Are they the Hornets? Is that what they are?
Yes.
Can they beat the Hornets? Or are the Hornets going to swarm? All right, so we've got some SEC teams advancing here. Unfortunately for the Gators, it's not them, as they only advance to the second round. Oklahoma is soonering on into that next round. And if we look at some of the other ones here, Arkansas advances, but they lose to Omaha. Ooh, tough.
Ooh.
And then what else do we have here? Again, the Zags moving on. Not a very good performance from the SEC. Tennessee advances, but Kentucky's out by Troy. This is the worst random bracket I've ever seen. Can we all agree on that?
Do it again.
I think we should do it one more time. That's why I was trying to see if you guys really wanted this one, because I think this one is just completely off.
Don't they have one where you can I think I've done this before where I randomize it, but maybe I went back and I wouldn't allow a 15 or 16 to lose. I don't know.
Have time for all that. That may be the case, but I don't have time to figure that out.
It's more fun anyway, right?
Let me see if I can do another one here. All right, I'm going to pull this off a screen for a second, and then I'm going to try to set it up again. We're going to do this again because I'm not a fan of this one. All right, let me try to get this pulled up in the meantime. Let's see what's happening in the chat. All right. Let's find one out here. Okay.
Some of the chat are not a fan.
Well, they shouldn't be. I mean, it's completely nuts. All right, here you go. So you can do a random one weighted by seed, okay? So we're going to do that. We're going to do random bracket weighted by seed. So meaning it's going to prevent more of those.
What? We like
all
it,
right.
huh?
This is the one you guys have been waiting for. This is the bracket that you've all been waiting for. Yeah. Notes here. Very important PSA from Big Gator EJ. For people just joining, this is not my bracket. Let's please make that very clear.
Thank you, EJ. EJ's always got our back.
Here we go. This is the one you guys have been waiting for. All right. Are we ready? I'm just going to pull up the Final Four to start with, and then we'll go find everything else. It's time for the real one here. This is the one that you all want to see. Are you ready, Chris? Are you ready?
I'm ready. I can't wait.
Okay. Here we go.
Oh, what in the world?
How about that? Auburn versus Florida in the Final Four. Alabama versus Tennessee. This was my gut bracket pick right here.
We saw this tournament last week.
ESPN has randomized my gut bracket. This is incredible. Incredible. I had Florida in the championship, I think against Tennessee, though. It wasn't Alabama, but this is tremendous.
Oh, man.
The randomizer has gone with the All-SEC Final Four with the Gators chomping down the nets in San Antonio. Wow. Big baller Brett, not good enough for him. So let's look at the rest of the bracket because I think this is where things get interesting. All right, let's go back up here. All right, so you got Auburn versus Creighton. Okay. Michigan versus A&M, holding the form here. Then I got Auburn over A&M in the Sweet 16, which I could see. North Carolina pulling the upset over Ole Miss. Iowa State. Oh, look at this. Bryant. Even with the weighted
68
seeds.
has been calling that one out. It's like Bryant's got a kid who was like a McDonald's All-American out of high school, went somewhere else, didn't work out. Like, they've got some dudes, apparently.
Well, Michigan State's got Izzo.
Yeah, I don't think they're winning, but just saying.
How about that? And then Alabama said, you know what? We want Duke to advance to the Elite Eight. We want to beat the Dukies, and that's what happened here. So Liberty over Oregon. Okay, a little bit better about that. Mississippi State advancing. St. Mary's beating Vanderbilt. So, all right, I like this one. I like this bracket. Go down here, Florida and UConn. Yeah, if Florida's going to win the second-round game, no knock on Oklahoma, but give them the Huskies. Let the Gators be the one to knock them out.
Georgia.
How about Georgia, huh? Yeah, I told you. Georgia, Houston, look out. High Point, Max would like that one.
I think I'm
the Drake. The
Drake. Oh,
all the way to the
Missouri.
Sweet 16. Yikes.
Illinois.
Yep. So there you go. There's your Final Four from the ESPN randomizer with a little weighted seed added in. The Gators.
What are the chances the randomizer does a better job than we do?
Well, easily. So
yeah,
easily. Yeah, pretty easy. So, all right, there you go. We had some fun there on the way out, but we gotta do some predictions. We got games to get to. We gotta see if we need to be looking for Alabama State here. The randomizer thinks we need to be. We got to preview Auburn, Alabama State coming up soon.
That'd be a
West
twist
Virginia.
we haven't talked about.
West Virginia cashing in the money in the bank to win the championship at the national title game. So, well, Chris is gone. I think Chris just tried to take something off the chat, and instead he took himself off the screen. So you're left with me here as Chris is going to hop back on. All right, we're out of here. All right, guys, tomorrow, live, 9 a.m. Central Time, we are going to make our official picks. I have not, here it is, full honesty, not made a single pick on the bracket of integrity yet. But tomorrow, that changes. This bracket will be filled out. Every pick will be there. Yeah, Sanders moving, by the way. If you're wondering where Chris went, he was moved by Sanders moving. Both by their actual moving stuff, but also he was moved emotionally by how great they are at what they do. Because, as we know, Sanders Moving, your friends and mine, formerly known as Ted R. Sanders Moving and Sanders Logistics, a leader among moving companies in Nashville, Tennessee, and the surrounding area. Their team of professional movers focused on delivering efficient, hassle-free moving at an affordable price. Whether you're moving across town or across the country, Sanders Moving has you covered. Visit them at tedrsandersmoving.com. All right, we're out of here. Predictions
We're
time.
out of here. Yeah, predictions time. Looking forward to that.
I'm not.
We were going to do baseball, but we're just running out of time. We will have something for baseball up for the weekend, maybe predictions. Yeah, we haven't forgotten that. To just basketball's priority right now. So anyway, thank you for watching. Wish Max Barr safety on his travel. We appreciate all of you here. God bless you. We'll see you again soon with more hoops content at Southeastern 16.